So here's a question for you. Would you benefit from ongoing support to improve your sales conversations and ultimately close more business? The Sales Maven Society offers you daily support for your urgent sales questions, an extensive library of bite-sized trainings to hone your selling skills, and monthly live coaching calls where you receive individualized coaching from me specific to your business so that you're able to remove any bottlenecks in your sales process. This is the most robust sales coaching program around for an incredible value of only $147 a month. And you can join now for your first month for only $47. You get access to absolutely everything, including the live coaching calls with me. Come check it out and see if this is the place for you to really elevate your business to the next level. You can do this by going to yoursalesmaven.com/society, hit the join now button. And then when it takes you to that page, enter this code, the number 4, the number 7, and the word trial, TRIAL. So 47 trial, all one word, and you'll be a member. I can't wait to see you in there. Now, here's the podcast.
Do sales conversations make you feel awkward or pushy? It's time to ditch the outdated salesy strategies. Your guide, Nikki Roush, will show you how to combine kindness with selling skills to meet your prospects where they are, and in the process, how to up-level your influence and income. Learn how to earn business easily and effortlessly. Here's Nikki.
Welcome to the Sales Maven Show. This is Nikki Roush. I'm your host, here to offer you tips, techniques, and strategies to master the sales conversation. Today's episode is a sales success story with one of our very own Sales Maven Society members. Jen Hope is here with us. Jen, welcome to the show, friend.
Thank you. Great to see you.
It's so good to see you. I'm a big fan. Tell everybody a little bit about you and the work that you do and who you work with and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I am a leadership coach, and business owners, both small business owners and folks who are running larger organizations, typically in the tech space, hire me to work through understanding their leadership brand. So specifically, we do a little bit of research on their leadership brand, right? Through something that looks kind of like a market research about the individual. We get some data about them and their preferences and their inputs. And then we make small tweaks to make that brand feel authentic to them and have them go out in the world and do really effective, meaningful leadership in their business.
I love this. And so tell me a little bit about if somebody were thinking right now, listening to this, because I'll tell you that was one of the most compelling ways I've ever heard it described, what you just said. It was so good because I'm like, I want to know my leadership style now. So if somebody's going to come to work with you, what does that typically look like? Is that a long-term commitment? What does that involve? Let me just let you talk. How does that work?
The most popular way folks work with me is in a 6-month program.
Okay.
And in that 6-month program, we do a little bit of this data research side. We get to understand based on, some human behavior information and a leadership 360 where we get inputs both from the individual and the folks around them in their environment. Hey, what is the reputation of this person? What is the impact that this person's having in their environment? And then we understand, hey, where are some small tweaks? Where's your leadership now? Where do you want your leadership to be? What do you want your brand to be as you head into the future? And what's most effective for your business in getting results? Where does that need to go? And this works for both individuals. And I also bring teams into that process at times where we share this language. Hey, what is the leadership brand that others experience when they're working with you? And how does our impact as a team potentially need to evolve over time? Yeah, so 6-month program, we meet three times a month. It's kind of, I have a background in fitness, and so I think of it a little bit like a trainer, where you're not going to have a coach forever, and I want to send folks out into the world without a coach, so they come in and we work together for 3 weeks, and then you have a week off. and you go do homework and you go throw some weight around, right? You flex some emotional muscle, and then
Yeah.
you come back, and we work together. And some folks stay for 6 months. Most folks stay at least a year, a season of life of working together typically. And then they take that skill set and either go away, or some folks come back over time. I intend the relationship to be career long. And so folks can come and go and build their skill set and come back over time when they need me, when they need support.
Yeah. And I love this idea of your leadership brand. As somebody who's working on developing my own leadership skills, I haven't really ever thought about like this is a brand and I need to think about it and nurture it and care for it and continue to hone those skills. My question for you is, what would be an identifier for somebody if they're experiencing something or thinking something? Like, what are those things that usually then leads them to go, okay, Jen's my person? Like, how do they identify, like, this is something I should really invest some time and energy and money into?
I think what I hear often is that it's a moment where somebody is really ready to do some self-reflection
Mm,
and has the sense that with some additional inputs, I have some self-awareness. I know some of the elements about myself, and I'm looking to go deeper. I want to shine a spotlight on some of those areas where, hey, what does, with some additional information, what could I look at that may be getting in my way? How could how could I accelerate through that? Versus like, I'm going to look at it and then maybe kind of stay stuck on it, versus, okay, let's look at it and now let's build some action plan to move through it, to evolve it, right? We all have sometimes we overdo those gifts, and one of the ways that we can move through that is starting to see how it's limiting us, right?
mhm.
It works until it doesn't. Our strategies work until they don't at times. And
Yeah.
when somebody's saying like, hey, this strategy has gotten me to where I am today, I don't know if it's going to serve my future. And I want to pause and I really want to look at that. And I want the support that will help me move through it and accelerate that process.
Yeah, I love that. And also I will say from somebody who worked in corporate America for, 17 years, I find that a lot of times people are promoted into leadership. Specifically, I'm speaking of my experience with sales. A lot of times they take somebody who's really, really good at sales and they make them the sales manager. But that doesn't really mean that they have leadership skills or that they have the training to now manage a team. And so I've seen that happen over and over again where people get put into a leadership role because there's something about them that really shines, but it's not necessarily leadership that's the shining thing that puts them into that role. Is that something that you see in corporate, or does that even resonate at all?
Absolutely. I mean, startup community was very much the same. I spent, 18 years working in both the in advertising agency world and startup, and it was very similar. You got promoted because you had, very specific talent, and sometimes that was management, and sometimes not. And in
Mhm.
that environment, particularly when we're talking about folks who are newer managers or managers who are taking bigger, more complex roles, they do not have the foundation yet, right? They don't have. I mean, for some folks, they land here and maybe we don't even have a definition of leadership. What it's like this like intangible, and what I can help folks do is really get some definition. What does it mean? What are the skills that make up a really competent, really effective, really meaningful leader? And then we can start to define like, hey, I'd really like to hone X skill. What does that look like? Authenticity? Does it look like understanding systems better? Do I need to work on vision? Maybe I need to be a more selfless leader. Maybe I really want to look at, my own, interpersonal skills, right? Like, and we can look in those directions. Maybe perfection is one of the ways that I am getting in my own way. And when we can start to look at that and have language around what leadership even is, wow, do things fall into place? Wow,
Yeah.
do folks be able to start to see like, oh, I've got this great strength here and I can own that and I can lean into it and I can round out a skill set with a lot of intention.
I love the way you said that. And that was so great, the way you just described it. I just feel like everybody listening right now is going to be like, I need some Jen in my life. And I'm going to tell you, if you're thinking that, you do. You do need some Jen in your life. She'll blow your mind. So I love that. And then I didn't tell you I was going to ask you any of these questions. So I'm just challenging you now. Let's see. What do you think is the difference between somebody who sees themselves as a leader versus somebody who sees themselves as a manager?
I find that I hope this is an okay way to answer this question. I find folks who end up in management are often thinking about managing folks' emotions or tasks and not necessarily leading folks to do their best work, to accomplish their big vision for their lives. They're not necessarily thinking of themselves as a leader, as a coach. They're not thinking of themselves as someone who is really empowered to say, hey, I am willing to both care for you, challenge you, give you the feedback that you need as an individual to go where you want to go. And if we're managing people, we're kind of just looking down, right? At
Hmm.
like the work that needs to be done, at some of the minutia, and the leader is looking like forward for everyone and towards a much bigger picture with their own vision for themselves, with their own, standing alongside the vision that this person has for their future as well, and their team and their people, and even the system and the process of running that department, organization, company.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that this goes back to, and maybe again, this is a little bit of my own self reference here, is that just like how I feel like most people don't get selling skills, like that's not something that's traditionally trained. It's not something people get in school. And so when you decide to start your business, I think selling skills are such a crucial component. And as you continue to build your business, to me, leadership, it's such an important piece of having that, being able to be the visionary, being able to understand your role and looking at the big picture. And as somebody who really struggles with that really big picture, long-term visualization of what's happening next. I know I said to you even before we started this podcast, like I tend to fly by the seat of my pants, like this, we're going to just go, right? Like, and so that doesn't really work. I'm finding as I'm continuing to build my business, that doesn't work. That is not a leadership strategy. That's what I will say. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in my mind, right, and with some of the tools I work with, I think about vision being a part of achieving,
Mm,
right? I think about that being like how we get to this place where we achieve what we set out to achieve. And and without knowing what that is and knowing that direction, we do kind of like go where the wind takes us a little bit.
hmm.
And that is not to say that like we need, you know, um, a brick by brick path to the destination, right? Like no. We're talking strategic. We're talking
Yeah.
intention. We're talking this is where I'd like to head, and getting others on board to come along with you. That's the critical element that I think we're talking about that
Yeah.
kind of separates um, you know that day to day, like we'll go where we go versus like okay we'll plot a path, even if it's not brick by brick.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. Do you know how to recognize and act on a buying signal? I have a gift that is going to teach you these 17 buying signals so that you're ready when you get them to take action and move somebody to the next part of the sales conversation. You can get this right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/Maven. Go grab it now. Love you. Love your mission. Love the impact that you're making in the world and the business and for these leaders. So, we specifically wanted you to come on to share some of the successes that you've had, and so would love to kind of dig in. What comes to mind for you when you think about your success story from the work that we've done?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's so cool about the time that we've spent together and what I continue to learn from you is, I mean, of course, the language of sales, right? Like again and again, how we talk about sales and how, you know, that knowing of where you are in the process. I've just been so grateful to have that. And in my day to day, right? Because I think about you, like, you know, they say like, you know, great coaches and great therapists, they live in your mind, right? And they live on, right, when they're not in front of you, and you do. And so I wanted to start by that, saying that, because that has
Oh,
been really
thank you.
impactful. I just appreciate you in that way, and the way you make things so um, tangible, approachable, actionable. And that's just been really valuable for me. So I'll start there. I think the next step being what I was able to do after the time we spent in our strategy session is take something that really works for me and my style, right? I'm a data oriented individual. It shows up in my practice. I spent 18 years working as a digital marketer and a growth marketer, and it was very data oriented. And what you were able to reflect back to me is in my own business, owning some of the data, i.e., what folks were telling me about the essence of my business was there. I just had to go get my own magnifying glass out and go find it. And that has been such a rewarding process to go and do that market research and get to, hey, what are customers saying about their experience and working with
Mm-hmm.
me? And it was something that was really missing. It was, and it's unlocked a lot in being able to articulate, what do folks say about working with me? And you know, you were so warm in the way you were able to give me that feedback. I never felt like, what a ding dong, right? Like I should have
Oh,
seen that sooner, right? I never had that feeling. I always had the care that said, hey, Jen, I think you're so aware. And if you really tune in and hone, like I'm thinking of you with like your little antennas on, like
uh-huh.
get your antennas out, you know, and go look for some of this um, data, right? And
Yeah.
that's my language. You were able to speak to me, and something that, you know, really resonated and was really actionable. And I went out and did it, and it's had quite an impact already in all aspects of my marketing. Which, as somebody who left marketing because they didn't want to do it anymore, that really accelerated things for me. And
Oh.
in a short period of time, you know, even since the end of last year, has had quite an impact throughout, you know, everything that I'm doing, both in marketing and in sales.
That delights me beyond. I'm so thrilled for you because I remember this session with you in particular, and you love data, and and you're so good at articulating things. And we were and I was just challenging you, I think, a little bit to really start to ask the question and listen to what people are saying, because, and I think this is across the board. I think when you listen to what your clients have to say, the type of feedback that they give, the way they phrase things might not always be the way you would phrase what you're doing or what the deliverables are that you're offering, but they will tell you. And when you can speak their language, that's where things really start to blossom. So I love that you've picked that up and that you really ran with that and are using it and seeing a lot of success. Congrats.
Thank you.
I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
love it. I love it. It's something, you know, it's like, it's one of those where I would have taught this to someone as a marketing consultant, as a, you know, as a leader in marketing. I would have taught this to someone else. And when you're so close, this is
Mhm.
again that value of working with a coach, right? When you're working with someone who's
Yeah.
got the perspective and the zoomed out you know, vantage point that you have, you can say, hey, here's a tweak, here's a way that I can see an opportunity, and it was right in front of me, and I wouldn't have gotten there. I really wouldn't. It was too close. I was inside the jar, whatever you want to say, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was trying to read the label from inside, and it was not working. And it really, really, really kind of just really flipped things for me in a really
I'm
powerful
so
way.
glad. I'm so glad. I also want to recognize you here for something else that I think you know this. I think I've shared this with you before, but for the anybody listening, here's a little thing that just to give an example of what we're talking about for Jen, but what Jen did in my business. So many, many years ago, I can't even remember what year it was, but it was probably 2018, maybe. You had reached out to me and you're like, I just need an hour of your time. And at the time, I was like, that's not an option. I don't have just an hour. And you're like, but that's what I really need with you, Nikki. And so my strategy sessions were born out of you and I having, and we did this in person. We did a live 1 hour strategy session. You met me at the end of, I had a VIP client. We met at the end of her VIP day. We did a 1 hour session with you. And I think it was like 10 minutes in, you're like, I think I got what I needed. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize I could give I didn't know that I could give in a way that in 10 minutes somebody could go, I think I got what I needed. And then we kept going. We finished the hour, but I think it was something like that. Like, I got what I needed, or you're like, what you just did in these first 10 minutes, like, paid for itself, or there was some like really amazing compliment you gave. And I have continued to offer strategy sessions, and they are a huge part of my business. And that is because you asked for it. So thank you for that.
For sure. Can I add to that story?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So I left from that session and delivered a keynote that people still bring up. Like, I have heard from other, like, recent in the past 6 months, somebody has said, I remember being in the audience when you gave that keynote. And that is what you helped me do, is to create something that went on to even impact more people. So that was that's a really, really big deal. That, like, gives me all the warm fuzzies. So thank you.
That chokes me up a little bit. I have to say, thank you so much for that. Oh, I do remember that we were working on a keynote in particular for you. So, oh my gosh, I love that somebody just said to you just now that they remember that. How powerful. What a great job you did. Congrats. Like, again, you are such a superstar. You're such a great implementer. I love working with you. I will say it's such a delight that, I know there's been periods of time where you like what you said with your clients too, where you come, you work with me for a little bit, then you go off and you do these really amazing things. And then sometimes you come back, we get a little bit more, and then we keep, it's been a real treasure to get to work with you and watch you really flourish over the last many years. You're a superstar.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Okay. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to make sure we addressed? Otherwise, I'm going to ask you just kind of my last two questions and we'll wrap it up.
No, I think that's it.
Okay. All right. So one question that I always ask everybody, and you may have already answered this, which is fine too, is what would you say is one benefit that you receive from being in the Sales Maven Society?
The access to real-time questions is really beneficial. I think being able to come in and ask a question and say, like, hey, this is something that's happening today, right? Tomorrow, and wanting to be able to turn around a response. So that, the Facebook group, I think, is so valuable for that. The constant also for me of the reinforcing of the things that I've already learned, right? Like, I took your sales training, I think it was like 2015 or 16.
Yeah.
That's how long ago that was,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so, I continue to get reminders of that information. And so the being close, being in that sphere is really important. And it's that piece that says, like, it's really approachable when I have a framework, when I have a language, and that the continuous reminder and being that close to this group has really kept that top of mind. It keeps me thinking about selling, as a core skill that I need in my business. And I love that.
I love that too. All right. And so then the last question is, how can people listening get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, the best way to find me is my website. It's heyjenhope.com, Jen with one N. And I'm also on Instagram at that same place as well. So Hey Jen Hope, find me there everywhere.
Yeah. And if you're thinking, listening to this, like, I don't know what my leadership brand is, it is time to reach out and connect with Jen. She'll blow your mind. And I say that, like, with full confidence. I know you will blow people's minds. You are such a wealth of information and you bring so much to the table. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your success story. Thank you for being you. And off camera now, I'm going to go, like, have a few happy tears for the nicest things that you said. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well.
And for you, the listener, thank you for being here. I hope that this inspired you today to think about how can you gathering that information from your own clients, the feedback that they're giving? How can you incorporate that into your business? Because those are like gold nuggets and you don't want to miss them. So go out, start collecting information, ask questions, be curious, and see what comes as a result. Thanks for being here. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.
Are you ready to increase your confidence in your sales conversations? I have a gift for you that is going to show you exactly how to do that. It is my Closing the Sale ebook. It's all about leveling up your confidence, giving you language to use, how to seamlessly move somebody through the sales process. And you can get it right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/maven. Go grab it.